Yesterday, for those who weren't here, we talked about vertical angles. Those are the angles that are back to back. They are equal to each other. So if you had an algebra problem, you would set them equal and then solve for your variable. We also talked about an angle bisector. An angle bisector is very similar to like a midpoint, except for it's a ray that is the midpoint of the angle. It cuts your angle into two equal pieces. So yesterday on your assignment, basically you would have just taken two things, set them equal, and solved. Today, you're going to have to really pay attention to the picture and maybe to the directions as to what's given to figure out how to solve for the variable now. There are two different types of angle pairs that really are going to take up the majority of stuff today. Yeah.
Why is always the first part so simple, then the second part?
This stuff isn't bad.
It's not.
No, it's not bad.
Right.
I promise it's not. I will warn you when something tough is coming up. I promise. So, I mean, these words look a little bit scary, but they're not bad. So the two major terms for today are going to be complementary and supplementary. Today's angle pairs are not equal to each other. So you are going to be doing some angle addition and setting it equal to something else. We're going to start with complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. These angles will be very, very obvious. Like you'll know when you have complementary angles because you're going to see this little box. That little box right there means 90 degrees. I don't think that should be new to you. I think you probably may have seen that before. But this little box right there means 90 degrees. So if you have a little box on an angle, we know that this one angle is 90 degrees. So if I draw another ray through it, now this is not cutting the angle into two equal pieces unless it's a bisector, and I'm not telling you it's a bisector. So the minute I draw a line or draw a ray in this case through the 90-degree angle, what I'm doing is I'm creating complementary angles. These two angles add up to 90. So we could say that this angle is 30 and this angle is 60. That little box right there is going to be your red flag that you're adding angles and setting it equal to 90. So any two angles that add up to 90 degrees are considered to be complementary. Tomorrow, we're going to be going through and naming all the different angle pairs. Tomorrow might be a little rough, but today it's just these ones, just kind of getting your feet wet with it. The other angle pair that you're going to see today are supplementary. Supplementary, if there's one word that when you leave here that you know by heart, it's supplementary. We will use supplementary angles in this term from now until June. If I say supplementary angles, actually in even some directions in the upcoming units, they're going to say these two angles are supplementary, and you have to know what that means. I'm not going to tell you. Same thing with like congruent, that term. You have to know what these terms mean. Supplementary means that you have two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Now, supplementary angles won't have a little box or anything like that. Complementary will be obvious because you'll have that little box. Supplementary won't be as obvious, but what you look for with supplementary angles is a straight line. So if you have a straight line and then another ray that comes out of the straight line, the straight line right here, remember on your quiz that when you had that one angle that went from 0 all the way over to 180, I think it was on the protractor, and everyone either answered that angle was either 0 or 180. If you have a straight line, that is a 180 degree angle. So the minute I draw another ray, I now have two angles that create this 180 degree angle. So like this could be 60 degrees and this is 120 degrees. So these two are considered to be supplementary because they are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. The two types of angles that we just drew, hopefully you drew, they also have another name. They are also adjacent angles. I'm going to add this down here. This is another term that may pop up here and there. So these two pictures that we just drew, we not only drew complementary and supplementary, but we also drew adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a side, or that share a ray. I'll put that. So adjacent angles are two angles that share a ray. And these angles right here share this ray. These angles right here share this ray. They're kind of like next door neighbors that share, we'll say, like a fence. These two angles share this fence. These two angles share this fence. So adjacent angles are any angles that are just like right next to each other, that are right next door neighbors. Vertical angles were those angles that were back to back, so they're not right next door to each other. Vertical angles are not adjacent. Those are the angles we talked about yesterday. These two angles are not adjacent. They do not share a fence. They share maybe like a little walkway right here to and from, but they do not share an actual fence. Supplementary and complementary, they could, because they share that little line right there. The other term that we're going to chat about is linear pair. And honestly, linear pairs are basically these right here. I'm not even going to give you, I don't think, another term. Linear pairs are supplementary angles. Tomorrow, I'm going to be putting pictures up. Actually, it's the assignment to, like, our little warm-up tomorrow is within your actual assignment packet. And we're going to go through and label, given, like, I'm going to draw a picture. There's going to be a picture, and you're going to have to tell me that however many different names that you can find with these angle pairs. So today, what you are going to see, you're going to see some complementary, you're going to see some supplementary. There are going to be some vertical angles sprinkled within there, but we've got to make sure that we get all of these different angle pairs down and that we know which ones are which just based off of what the picture looks like. So if we grab out your examples that we went through yesterday, these are the ones we went through yesterday. We're now on the back. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label what angle pair they are. And we're actually not going to do this one right here. We're just going to do this one together. This one you're going to try on your own. And then we're going to do another one together. And then you're off and running. So right here, I have two angles that they share a fence or they share a side. And they are right next to each other. And you have a straight line. This straight line right here lets me know, and it's my red flag, that these are supplementary angles. That line right there does. So because they are supplementary, that means that these two angles, when I add them together, it equals 180 degrees. Yesterday, we were setting angles equal to each other. Today, you're not. You're actually going to add them and set it equal to either 90 or 180. Because this is a straight line, we're going to take 7q minus 46 plus 3q plus 6. And because of the straight line, that means that it equals 180. So then you use your awesome algebra skills. 7q plus 3q is 10q. Negative 46 plus 6 is negative 40, bless you, equals 180. So remember, when you combine like terms, you use the signs that they have. Now, when you move things to the other side of the equal sign, that's when you do the opposite operation. So then I'm going to add 40. 10q equals 220. And then divide by 10. Q equals 22. And that's it. Unless it tells you to find the angle measures, which it doesn't. So I just want you to solve for x. On your own, I want you to try this next one, and then I do want you to plug it back in and find out what those two angle measures are. So solve for x and then plug it back in. Okay, these angles again form a straight line. This straight line right here is going to be your red flag. So these are supplementary again. So you're going to add them together. Set it equal to 180. Combine like terms and you get 5x plus 10 equals 180. Subtract 10. And then divide by 5. Oh, goodness. 5, 10, 15, 34. After you get x equals 34, then plug it back in. This is the easy one to plug it back into. 34 minus 10. This angle right here is 24 degrees. 4 times 34 is 136. 136 plus 20 is 156. And this is how you can check it too. 156 plus 24 does equal 180. So that's how you know that that had to have been right. It's a good way to check yourself. Any questions there? Straight lines, two angles on a straight line add up to 180. You're going to get so sick of me saying that. Probably from now until actually all of chapter 2 uses this as well. That supplementary term. Lots of supplementary. All right, last example today. We're going to do this guy right here. See the little box? That's your red flag that these are complementary. The complementary ones I think are going to be the easiest because that box kind of gives it away. And as long as you know what that box means, you will be fine. Complementary means 90. So you're going to add them together and set it equal to 90 degrees. So x plus 4 plus 3x plus 2 equals 90. And if you get confused and you don't remember, see how this does, like this angle from here to here doesn't open up as much as like this one does. This one opens up all the way. Think about that protractor. Combine like terms, you get 4x plus 6 equals 90. Subtract 6. 4x equals 84. This one works out nice. And you get x to equal 21. And then again, if you wanted to check it, you could just plug it back in. This is 25 degrees. And then this is going to be 360, 365. I like to check. It's my favorite part about Algebra 1 is that you should always walk out knowing if you got things right. In geometry, if I can find any ways to help you guys check your answers, I will. Any questions? Nothing?